On today's episode, I will be sharing some of my story to this point of 3 years clean and sober today, along with the key practices that have brought me success in recovery. I will also be giving away 7 shirts, 7 hats, 7 signed copies of my best-selling book, From Chains to Saved, One Man's Journey Through the Spiritual Realm of Addiction. And I'll also be giving away this one and only custom Recovered on Purpose canvas, and I will be signing it right here on air. My name is Adam Vibe Gunton, and this is the Recovered on Purpose Show. The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose. Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. Recovered on Purpose was founded on the belief that addiction is an epidemic with a rising death rate that can only be stopped by recovered addicts attaching to mission and living on purpose. With all the treatments, all the fellowships, all the churches, etc., why is it the average age of youth drug experimentation continues to lower while the overdose and relapse rate continues to rise? We believe the best relapse prevention for addicts in recovery is living inside the purpose God created for their lives, and Recovered on Purpose is a bridge to help any addict in recovery find and live on that very purpose. We believe every addict struggling has the ability to find a God of their understanding and recover from a state of hopelessness and active addiction. Once this decision has been made, we are a movement of telling our stories in powerful, impactful ways that can take away the stigma of weak willpower and shows the true power it takes for us to recover. Our stories will be shared with society in the form of books, interviews, social media, and more. Most importantly, our stories will be utilized in the school system to deter the future generations from going down the same path that we did. Not many addicts are deciding to have permanent recovery. Many of us that become addicted will never taste the freedom of being recovered on purpose. But we that do shall rise up as an army against this evil, so younger generations do not have to experience the same horrors we did. Our stories are our greatest weapons. If this mission jives with you and you want to have a Recovered on Purpose t-shirt shipped to you totally free, go ahead and like this video, share this video, and comment shirt below, and I'll be picking 7 of you, and I'll let you know by November 8th. If you are interested in finding out what your business could look like as a sponsor of the Recovered on Purpose show, go ahead and go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and tell me about your business and why you think it would fit well with this show and the audience. It was September 28th, 2008. I had been out drinking and partying like most nights of my freshman year of college when I woke up to my phone ringing and vibrating down by my leg. I swam through the sheets to find my hard phone with the bright screen that read 4:47 a.m. and my best friend Chucker was calling me. And I remember having the conscious choice that I could either answer the way that I always do with, "Hey, what's up, Chuck?" Or I could answer the way I was feeling with, "Hello?" In my still drunken state, I chose the latter, to which a soft voice replied, "Hey, what's up?" "Why are you calling me this late?" "I was just calling to say hi." "Don't call me this late again." And I hung up on him. And he shot himself. For nearly a decade after that phone call, I was unable to share it with anyone as I buried the shame, guilt, and remorse down deeper and deeper with drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol were no longer a way for me to party and have fun. Drugs and alcohol had become my solution to life, which led me to finding myself homeless, kicked out of a homeless shelter, so I was super homeless, and unable to stop using the very drugs that were taking everything from me. Now, I didn't start like that. I remember I actually had a really good childhood. I grew up in Columbine Hills Elementary School, and in that neighborhood there, I was in baseball, I was in football, I was in wrestling. We went to Little League World Series with my baseball team. We went to the national championship for football. We played all these. I won state in wrestling one year when I was little. But for some reason, around age 12, I just started seeking something more, like some kind of more experience, it was almost like I was rebelling, but I don't even know why I started using drugs. I had a bad influence in my life at that point that kind of just started introducing me to weed and honestly cocaine and drinking. And for some reason, I started to like it. It was almost like a way that I was able to rebel from this suburban life that I was living. But the thing is I didn't even understand what was going on. And there's no blame or nothing on any of my teachers or my parents or anybody like that, but for some reason I didn't even understand what I was doing to myself. These influences were coming, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't understand what I was doing to myself. I didn't understand that just 7 years after I started my first use, I would be using drugs every single day in order to cope with and mask the way that I felt. And in order to cope with life, I had to use drugs in order to make friends. I had to use drugs in order to feel okay, to go up and talk to somebody. I wasn't able to go out without drinking. I wasn't able to go out and talk to people without having some kind of substance in my body. And the thing is by the time I was 25, 26 years old, I had basically no hope for a future in my life. I used to have all these dreams, all these goals, all these passions that I wanted to fulfill on with my life, and drugs took it all from me. They took it all from me. So I got to a point in my life where I literally didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. I was just working a sales job where I was able to go state to state to state and was able to knock on doors and make pretty good money and support this habit. But the consequences weren't really there yet. I wasn't losing everything in life. I was able to use drugs, and I had a relationship. I had a business that I was doing and was knocking on doors and all this. But really, in all reality, I didn't have any direction. And it actually got to a point where I was in Montana, and I was kind of on a break with my then girlfriend, but I went and saw her. And when I left her house, this was actually on November 6, 2015, which is really crazy the way that November 6 just kept showing up in my life. But that night, I left her place, and I was actually hiding from her that I was actually using drugs. And I pulled away about 2-3 blocks away, pulled over, and I made myself up a shot of something that I had gotten off the streets. And I made it up, and I shot it in my arm. And I remember getting really upset because I didn't feel anything. I thought that I had gotten some bunk stuff. So I remember getting mad and starting to pull off, and I had this music blaring, and I was upset, and I pull off, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting up in a pile of glass on the asphalt next to this car, and there were blue and red lights flashing all over the place, and there was a paramedic that had wide eyes looking at me, and 2 cops standing at my feet, and I woke up completely, and I was like, what the heck? And I ended up, obviously I overdosed that night, but I didn't even realize the extent of it until later, because I ended up getting released that night. They weren't able to do anything until they searched the car and they found the drugs later on. They ended up putting me in jail just for a couple nights. And during that time, between that time they found me to when they put me in jail, I didn't stop using. I didn't stop. Then they put me in jail. And when I got out, they put me on what's called a drug patch, so I wasn't able to use drugs anymore. But I started to drink, and I started to drink heavily because it was the only thing that I could do. Then I remember when I got my leave from this bail bonds, basically, I was able to leave the state to go for work, and they took the drug patch off me. And my mind was so stuck in this addiction and so desiring these drugs for whatever reason, even though I was just found on the street, to my knowledge. But when I got that drug patch off, I had already made up a shot and had it in my car to do right when I got out and start this trip to California. And now I want to fast forward about 4 months when I had to come back for an arraignment in Billings, Montana for Yellowstone County Court. When I was sitting there next to my attorney, and the DA wheeled out a 52-inch flat screen TV in front of me. And I remember the staticky sound in the courtroom. It was just me and my attorney and the DAs and then one of the police officers that was there and the judge. And staticky picture comes on the TV, and then it's this vest cam of a cop getting in his cop car and roaring off and speeding off to this site that was actually only 2 blocks away from the police station. And they're pulling up, and I see this car, and it's my rental car, at a stop sign. And he's pulling up, and I can see from his camera a glimpse of my body behind the wheel at a stop sign, like this. And I remember like in this courtroom, I'm watching this on TV like, oh my gosh. And then he goes up and he gets out of the car and he starts yelling at me, and he's like, he starts putting the flashlight on me, and like he's tapping on the window, hello, hello. And then he leans down and starts flashlighting in my face, and I can see I'm at this angle, and I can see that my eyes are open, and I'm not moving. And that was a really scary sight. And then he ends up having to break the back window to get in because the door was locked. And I remember like when he broke the window, this music just blared out of the car. And how is it that I'm sleeping through this? How is it that I'm not even moving? And then when he opened up the door and he leaned in to put the car in park, it was almost like slow motion in this courtroom when the vest cam went right by my face. And my eyes were open, and I looked into my own eyes in that courtroom, and I was dead. There was no spirit in me. There was no life. And I remember I started to tear up in that courtroom, like, what the heck am I doing to myself? And I was gifted with an ability to, or an opportunity to see from a bird's eye view what I was doing to myself. And so he undoes the belt and he ends up like pulling me out, and he has to like jerk me out of this car. My leg is still stuck in the car, and he sets me down on the pile of glass that he just broke, and my arms go up over my head, and the shirt is up to my face, and he stands up, and it's just my skeleton body is in front of me. I can see my bones and everything, and in this courtroom I'm like watching as my own body is in front of me. And he goes down and he does this sternum rub where he goes really hard in my chest, and it's supposed to cause enough pain to make me wake up, and it's not working. And he goes to feel for a pulse, and he says he can't feel a pulse. He goes to feel for breath, and I'm not breathing. And what is going on? And I lean over to my attorney and I say, dude, can I leave? And he looks at me and he says, if you have to, which is basically saying no, you can't leave. And I just remember sitting in there, and I was so broken, and I couldn't even fathom that this whole life that I had been living up to this point, I had almost lost my life, and I had never even really lived it. I never even got an opportunity to live life, and here I am staring at myself, dead. And now, I want to fast forward from that experience because obviously I survived it because I'm sitting in front of you. But for the next almost 2 years, I tried everything within my power to get sober. I did everything. I went to 12-step fellowships. I went to Bible study. I ended up breaking up with that girlfriend because I thought maybe if I was single I could do it. And then I ended up homeless. I was kicked out of this homeless shelter. I was broken. I couldn't do anything. And I was going into my probation officer and asking him to put me in prison. I was going to this outpatient treatment center, trying to get sober, and I couldn't get it for some reason. And that's where I found myself at the end of my addiction. And we're going to talk about my recovery from that after a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. If you're in recovery and you want to be a part of this movement, go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact. Tell me a little bit about your story and why you want to be part of this and what you want to do. Hey, if you want to get a hat sent to you totally free, if you want to choose a red snapback or a white snapback, or I have white flex fit hats, go ahead and like and share this video and comment below what hat you want, and I will let you know the winners by November 8th. And one more thing that I want to give out today. This is the one and only custom Recovered on Purpose canvas. And if you want to be the person I send this to totally free, go ahead and like, comment, and share. And in your comment, just say, I want the canvas. And I'm going to go ahead and sign this right now. And guys, 3 years is such a big deal to me right now. And obviously you know that on 2 years, I launched the book because I wanted to give back in that way. And this is just something that I think is going to be sustainable, and I'm only going to do one of these canvases. So if you're the one that gets it, I just hope you love it. So Now back to the show. All right, so as you can tell, it's a little hard for me sometimes to talk about the darkness of the addiction and the bad times, because I feel like I've moved on from there so much. But on November 6th of 2017, I used for the last time. And I remember just being in this part where I didn't want to live anymore. I was 58 pounds lighter than I am now. I had nothing. But on November 7th of 2017, I had been trying forever to get sober. I went to multiple 12-step meetings a day. I went to church twice a week. I met with pastors. I did all these things trying to get sober, and I couldn't. So I was sitting in a car before this Bible study I went to every single Tuesday at 6:30. And I remember sitting in front of the wheel, and I started crying. I just started weeping, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I hadn't used in a day, but I felt like I had to, like I was going to have to at some point. I was going to have to right after Bible study, or I might have to go right before Bible study. So I literally just sat there and I said, God, I'm done. I'm not going to this Bible study. I'm not going to these 12-step meetings. Just let me die. Please just let me die. I was so broken and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I just wept, and then he whispered to me. And I remember so clearly that it felt like it just went straight from above into my heart. And he said, it's time, go. And I remember looking like this, and I started weeping again, and I started getting angry because I felt like I had felt that before. I felt like I had heard it before. And I started yelling at him. I said, no, God, I'm sick of this. Just let me die. Just let me die, God. I can't do this anymore. And I started hitting the ceiling and hitting the wheel, and I was just like, no, God, I'm done. And I was arguing with him and yelling at him for, it seemed like an eternity. And then he just repeated himself. And he said, it's time, go. And I remember this sense of peace came over me, and it was something that I hadn't experienced before. And I said, okay, I'm going. And I went to this Bible study at Mazevo Coffee in Billings, Montana. And I busted in these doors. I was 12 minutes late. They were in the middle of prayer. And I dropped on my knees. I interrupted. I threw my hands up. I said, guys, please help me. I can't stop. I can't stop. Please help me. And to this point, I had done that multiple times. I had raised my hand in church over and over and over. I had raised my hand at the 12-step meetings. I had asked for help. I'd asked for help. But I remember at this time, I was no longer throwing my hands up to the fellowship. I wasn't throwing my hands up to the Bible or the Bible study. I wasn't throwing my hands up to a church or a pastor or anybody. I was throwing my hands up in surrender to God. And I was asking him for help. And I remember my best friend Brendan, who led that Bible study, came over to me and kind of calmed me down because I had been doing this for months. Everybody had been seeing me for months trying to get sober, and I couldn't. And he came over and kind of calmed me down, like, bro, let's just get through Bible study, you know? And so we get through Bible study, and at the end, one of the elders, Carmen, came over to me and he said, hey, bro, I got a word for you. I need to pray for you. I said, okay. And he sat me down on this ottoman in the middle of the room, and he put his hand on my shoulder with Brendan and George sitting behind me. And he just started speaking to stuff. He was like, anxiety, leave, and depression, leave, addiction, leave. And I was just having this experience of like weight coming off me. And I didn't know what was going on, but I literally felt like things were leaving me. And I haven't drank or used since then. And now fast forward 5 days. I'm sitting at IHOP with my best friend Brendan, who's that Bible study leader. And we're talking, and I'm so excited because 5 days, I know if you're struggling, I know how hard 5 days can be to get at that point. And 5 days was like, I had made it, basically. I knew I'm going to get it this time. So I'm sitting across from Brendan, and I'm so excited, and I'm talking to him, and then we're talking, and then I get a text message on my phone, and I'm like, I just have this little flip phone, and I pull it out, open it up, and it's for my dope dealer. And he says, hey, bro, I just got some new stuff. It's fire. I'll give you a free 20 to try out. And right at that moment, I felt the Spirit enter through the top of my head, went all the way through my body. I felt my fingertips tingling, my toes tingling. I lost peripheral vision where all I could see was the phone, and my thumb started texting back. And it was in like King James. It was like, ye shall not text me again, thou hast texted me for the last time. It was going crazy. And I was like, what? And then at the very end it said, and fear the pain you cause your son because your son has been blessed with the Holy Spirit. And I feel the Spirit leave me. And I had to look back because as I was writing it, I couldn't even read it because it wasn't me writing it. And I look at it and I'm like, what the heck? And I showed it to Brendan and I was like, dude, that was not me. That was not me. And he like looks at you, have to imagine like somebody 5 days clean telling you, that wasn't me that wrote that. So I can't even imagine what was going on in his head. But he said, okay. And I push send and I close it. And I'm looking down at my pocket as I'm putting it in my pocket. And I'm in the middle of a sentence. And I look back up and Jesus is sitting across from me. The entire restaurant completely disappeared. There was a light glowing from behind him. He was smiling at me. I immediately knew what was happening, immediately knew what was going on. And I fell with my face to the table and my hand up. I said, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. And I came back up and he was gone. From that moment, with all the different spiritual practices that I had tried that moment, all the different seeking for my higher power, seeking for whatever it was that was going to save me, in that moment, all the stuff that I had learned through life came together in one truth for me and who my God was, who my higher power was, and who it was that I was going to talk to from now on. Now, here's the thing. That experience with Jesus was not enough to get or keep me sober. It's all over all different kinds of books. It's in the Bible. It's in the Alcoholics Anonymous big book, that faith without works is dead. So from day 5 to day 11, I had this sponsor that didn't want to do the steps with me. He basically wanted to meet once a week and kind of go slow and do like one step a month. But I was like coming apart at the seams. Like I was feeling sick. I was constantly obsessing about it. I couldn't stop, but I knew the experience I had. So I was able to at least pray. But that wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough for me to pray. It wasn't enough for me to meditate or lay down on the ground. And I'm so early on in recovery that none of these things even make sense to me yet. And I remember on day 11, and every night at this time, I was sleeping in a sober living house and I was listening to these speaker tapes, whether it be Christian speakers or fellowship speakers or whatever it is. And I remember having an experience where I was listening to a speaker and he literally started speaking directly to me. Like through this speaker tape that I was listening to, because I was desiring to hear the message so bad that I needed to get sober. And he started talking about doing the steps and doing them as if your life depends on it, and doing them as if that's the only thing that's going to save you, and not slowing down for anybody. And so I remember the next day I basically asked that sponsor, like, are you ready to do the steps like this? And he said, well, you're not the sponsor, I'm the sponsor, and I fired him. And I said, that's not going to work. So I fired him. And then I started interviewing people, because at that point I thought it was just like a huge blessing to be my sponsor, right? But then nobody that I could find would do the steps at my pace. It was almost like they were scared of the way that I was just like, I know how to do them right now. I want to live right now. And then I remember having a coffee with a friend that was there with me through the darkness. He would actually come meet me at these trap houses that I was staying at these broken down houses, just to come listen to me during my addiction. And he came and had coffee with me, and he was strictly alcoholic, had never done drugs before, and for some reason there was something inside of him that worked so well, and we connected. And we embarked on the steps on day 11 or 12. And immediately I started getting relief whenever I was actually working on them, whenever I was actually sitting down and writing out my inventory and just like doing a confession, basically, going over everything that's happened in my life. And whenever I would be doing that, I wasn't obsessing. And then for some reason, when I wasn't doing that work, I was obsessing. But then on day 25, when I did my first fifth step, which is when you basically tell your fourth step, you tell your story to somebody else, you tell all the things that you've done, and you find the character defects of your life and stuff. We went up to the rims and billings and we did that fifth step. Nothing really happened that day. But the next morning, and here's the thing, he was picking me up every single morning to do this work with me and save my life. And if you're a sponsor out there, sometimes some of them need that. I have sponsees right now that I talk to every single day, that I actually meet with and do this work with every day, because that's what saved me. That's what saved me. So he picks me up the next morning in his 1983 Mailman Jeep, and we're driving back to the movie theater that he managed, because we were doing the work in the basement. And I remember looking over at this beautiful sunrise over to the right, and I had a spiritual awakening that for the first time since I was 12 years old, I didn't want to drink or use. Since I was 12 years old, my mind went to, when am I going to use? What am I going to use? How am I going to use? What is it going to feel like? Is it going to be good? To my mind went this direction. For me, even with the faith in God, even with the faith in Jesus, there's work that I had to do in order to get the obsession relieved from me. And now that I knew about work, now that I knew who I was connected to, on day 30, I had never had 30 days clean and sober, and I still have the journal from that morning where I'm writing. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got here. I have 30 days today, and I'm writing a letter to God and saying, thank you, I'm so happy, I'm so grateful. You know what would be amazing, God? If I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. If I didn't have a cigarette today. And I haven't had a drag of a cigarette since day 30. And here's the thing, what was it that got me to be able to quit smoking that day? Was it my faith in God? Yeah. Was it a decision I made? Yeah. The decision to choose what it is that you want with your life and then work for it. That is what has completely changed my life from somebody who worked a job and used drugs and I had all these dreams that I wanted to do but was never able to actually do them because I was so stuck in myself, in this way that I was being with drugs. And now, since I've recovered, since I've gotten this life about me, I literally am able to work at things and make decisions for my life on my health, make decisions for business, make decisions on service. The reason why I'm celebrating this 3 years with you is because I want to give it back. I want to show you what's possible. If you're struggling right now, I promise you there is a way out. And if you have a lie within you that says that using in life is better than a life sober, I promise you that is a lie. You are worth it. You are worth so much more than using drugs. And if you're in recovery, you may be someone else's only opportunity at living a life. You may be the message that someone else will hear that gets them clean and sober. And then who knows what they're going to do with their life, with their purpose. The whole mission of Recovered on Purpose, the whole reason why I'm doing this show is not to tell my story. That's why I struggled at the beginning of this show to tell you about my darkness, because I don't even care about my story. What I want to show you is the possibility that you have for your life. The only reason why I'm doing all this and the reason why I get pulled through so many dark places in my life, even now in recovery, I struggle sometimes. And the thing that pulls me through is you. I'm staring at a camera right now, but I'm staring at you because I love you and I see you through this. I know that there's someone out here hearing this message right now. And you know that there's a decision that you need to make for your life. Maybe it's waking up earlier and getting more meditation in. Maybe it's waking up earlier and starting to journal. Maybe you've been thinking about going and working out for a while now and you just haven't started yet. Now here's the thing. Every decision that we make in recovery can actually be a way that somebody else sees us, right? It can be an example for someone, for them to pull themselves out. Just like you getting recovered from drugs and alcohol is an example for someone having a potential, having a hope for themselves getting clean and sober. Everything you do in recovery is now going to be an example for people that aren't recovered on what recovery life is like. Why is it that somebody wants to get clean and sober? Too many of us are talking about, you got to do the 12 steps. I'm telling you, just the 12 steps weren't enough for me. Jesus wasn't enough for me. There were so many things that I had to do personally in order to recover. It wasn't just drugs and alcohol that was my problem. Those were just my solution to life. My new solution to life has to do with my faith, has to do with the way that I live on purpose. And the way that I live on purpose and the way that I look at purpose, if your purpose is about you, it's wrong. The entire reason why Recovered on Purpose even exists is we are here to end addiction. And the only way we're going to do that, there's this rise of people getting addicted. There's this rise of OD. There's this rise of relapse. The only way that we're going to take care of this thing and actually end this and actually make it so that we quit rising is by us that recover telling our stories. Period. Whether that's telling our stories to people that are struggling to get them help, to give them hope, or if it's telling kids that haven't started yet what actually happens. And this first episode is just to tell you, yes, I struggled. Yes, I was an addict. But now there's so much more for us to do. There's a kingdom on the other side of getting recovered. There's this new life to live, and there's so much purpose. There's so much life to live. There's so many things that you can do with yours. That dream you've always had. It's possible. It's possible. I'm telling you, what I'm doing right now, I wanted to do in my addiction, but I was never able to do it. It's taken 3 years to get here, which if you're struggling, 3 years can seem like a long time, but 3 years right now is not looking like very long. It has not been very long to get me here. I'm telling you, last year I launched this book, and I've had people messaging me from all over the country. I even had somebody from the UK hit me up and say that they found recovery through this book, through my story. My story isn't enough, though. My story's not going to do it. Your story is so important, so vital. Recovered on Purpose needs you. Thank you so much for being here for this episode. If you've enjoyed this message, if you think that somebody else could get something from this, please like, comment, share. And if you want to get a copy of the book personally autographed by me, I am giving 7 of them away. So share and comment book and then a number between 1 and 7. Guys, I love you so much. I'm so excited to be here and so excited for this new journey. We'll see you soon.